My name is Daneesha, and welcome to my channel. I created this podcast to talk about things that I learn on my journey, experiences I have, and just general chit chat that I don't really share with people and feel like I need a place to brain dump sometimes, you know? Anyway, I felt like I would start on the topic of my roller coaster of a week and coming into this week. So this is currently the week of the weekend of 18th of May. Sunday, 18th of May. I was meant to host my second workshop, and I was meant to have this at a community hall that I booked for this event, right? And it was, going ahead as planned. I got there, I parked, I had all these things in my car I had to get out. And so I, was in a bit of a rush because it was also raining. And I thought, well, I've got to get the key to open the door. And mind you, this is a community hall that is a little bit more on the newer side. So it actually had automatic doors. And now I am not very privy when it comes to automatic doors, might I say. Because when you open these types of doors, you have a key that kind of like triggers it, right? And you can go turn it to the left or you can turn it to the right. And, turning it to one way opens it once, and then if you turn it the other way, it keeps it open like through the sensor. I didn't know, they didn't tell me this when I picked up the key for the hall. And, I kind of just rushed in, dumped all the stuff I had already started to put at the front of the hall, and then thought, okay, I'm just going to pop my phone down, pop the key down, I'm going to get the rest of the stuff, get ready and just start, doing what I got to do. I walked out and didn't realize that I obviously have not opened this door properly when I got back with some more stuff. And it's not opening when I'm coming up to the door. I'm like, sensor, open. And I'm realizing that I'm locked out. I'm locked out of the hall that I am meant to be having my event in. Now, I'm not gonna lie, my event wasn't that big. Like, it was only a few people that were coming. And, I kind of figured, if this is going to happen, it's better it happen when I have not too many people coming to one of my events and what I do, at this time. So I had to honor that this was an experience, a lesson. There was something to be taken away from this. And so I obviously had quite the cycle of experience when this was happening. I won't go into the full details of the story because it was quite the roller coaster of emotions, I will be honest. It was quite the sense of wanting to laugh, but also wanting to break down, wanting to just scream and shout, but also just feeling the sense of it is what it is, but also needing to cry and needing to release. It was definitely quite the ordeal for my nervous system to experience this type of cycle, but I have tools that I have learnt and things that I have gained through what I know now about the nervous system to actually navigate these things better. And so I did my absolute best to honor these experiences, like any emotions, any thoughts that were coming up to surface. I just kind of allowed that to be whatever it needed to be instead of shoving it down, because this is the tricky thing though. Like, even though I was happy to kind of embrace these things happening in a way that I was just going to allow it to surface and just feel through it and allow it to just kind of have its cycle, the people around me don't understand how that works all the time. And so they kind of try and get me to not do that. And it becomes challenging because it feels like I'm being pushed down, and it's not anything that they mean to do. People don't intentionally, not everyone, some people may, but not everyone, especially people that care about you, mean to do that sometimes, where they kind of tell you to not feel things when you need to and you want to. And you kind of have to have this experience of just what to do. And I was kind of put in that position twice where, like, people were questioning my reaction, and It was like challenging too. And I say this because when this happened, when I realized I was locked out and my event was not going to be running that day and that I couldn't do what I wanted to do, and, you know, my plans obviously were just cut, I was triggered into a emotional experience of leaning into emotions that actually were quite deep. I'm using my laptop as my spotlight because I could not be bothered bringing mine. Just little FYI. But anyway, this was like an experience of me having to really like fill into the trigger of what this was. And that's the funny thing though. Like I already felt like there was something. I describe it like this. I can only really emphasize what I mean by using metaphors, which, you know, anyway, sometimes they just make more sense, you know. It's like if you imagine like a soda can or something, or like a bottle, whatever, and you kind of shake it, and you know, as soon as you trigger that can or bottle opening, it's just gonna explode. That was me. I was already shaken. I was already activated from a few other things that were obviously happening that this triggered to just outpour through me. And so my emotions were more heightened, more chaotic, because I was already shaken up with this energy that needed to be released. So you can imagine that once the trigger hits, it was like the glass breaks, everything's just apart, you know, like it kind of felt like things were unraveling for me. And I had to really like allow that. But that's what I was meaning about how sometimes people around you don't really comprehend what it means to allow things to process in a way that it needs to, especially when they can't hold space for those emotions themselves while they're, you know, in that experience around you. Anyhow, moving on, it's this sense of trusting that when this surfaced for me, this experience of not being able to do what I wanted to do and kind of having this disappointment, it wasn't even so much the disappointment of not being able to do it. It was, and this is the funny thing, isn't it? Like the way my brain worked when this happened was it went from the kind of disappointment of, oh, I know I can't do this, but it was this sense of it is what it is. But the main thing that actually triggered more was the shame of feeling silly that I got locked out. Now, I wanted to break this down because I processed this myself. Like, I actually did the work and felt into where this was and how this was being experienced through me in that moment of triggering. And it actually was this moment where I realized my inner child feels deep shame when she makes mistakes, right? So I am having this breakdown because I've been locked out. And mind you, I didn't break down straight away. I had a little bit of those, what do they call it? Delirious giggles, where you're just giggling because you know something bad's just happened and you don't know how to take it. So you kind of giggle, and it's that avoidance. And then you kind of set into what's happened. Yeah. That was me. I literally just, it took a minute to sit in. And then I literally had to sit with it and realize what just happened and what was going to happen, you know, coming from that point. And I really noticed that the thing that happened immediately was negative self-talk, right? All this negative self-talk just bombarded me, like, oh my gosh, how could you have been so silly? Like all these things, right? Like it really pushed me to the edge of like, just not being able to hold my own when it was like this tower, this tower of negative energy telling me that I did such a bad thing. And now this is why I was such a people pleaser and why I was struggling to get out of the good girl programming that I was in before, because of this actual fact. It was literally what I have been instilled with through fear and shame, that I cannot make a mistake because it is not forgivable. And so I had to process this, and boy, did I have to actually like really confront this. And this is the funny thing for me sometimes, is I don't really have to understand the logic or like have the clarity behind the story of what I'm experiencing, a lot of the time I just process it later. Like I kind of think about what I felt and then I start to feel into it and realize, oh, this is what was happening. This was what I was moving through. But it doesn't happen whilst like whilst I'm actually experiencing it. It's usually just me feeling it. And so I just had to be with these emotions as heavy as they were, if I could describe it that way. Because I guess it wasn't just the inner child shame like that was coming up for me. There was other things that I could feel that were underlying on that too. But that was the main, obviously being the trigger was what was really just prevalent for me as I was driving home from the hall and, having to leave. And mind you, I don't know if you caught this when I said it, but I left my phone in there. I did not have my phone. Now, I probably should have mentioned this before and it literally said 11:11 on the timer. But like this is just why it made me laugh, because I knew that it wasn't such a bad situation. It wasn't like I was on my own completely. My brother was actually gonna come and do some photos for me at the event, so he was on his way. So I knew I literally had 15 minutes to wait until he arrived, and he had obviously had a phone and I could use that to, contact, but I didn't have. Anyway, like these are extra details. But he was there. So this was a sense of like something about this was like spirit saying, no, this is a closed door right now, but it is for a higher purpose and you need to trust in it. And something in me, even though that's why I say like, was telling me that it was okay, that I had to allow this to happen through me. And what I mean, the experience of it, feeling it and acknowledging why I had to be okay with not doing something that I would have felt a lot of shame not being able to do in a past version of myself. I don't know if this is making sense, but to kind of clarify, I really acknowledge that at times the universe, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, will say no to you, okay? And it will tell you that this is a closed door right now, and it will shut that door, but it doesn't mean it's permanently closed. It just means that right now you are not in the, I want to, like, for me it felt like I just wasn't in the frequency where I could hold space for that particular doorway, and that wasn't anything to have shame around. It was something to feel trust into, that sometimes you need to be honest and take that time to be gentle with yourself and know when it's safe to take a step back and say, I need a moment, or I need a break, or I need space. And this was my experience, like having to process this, and my phone being in the hall and me not having access to my phone was literally a metaphor too. I felt like it was taking away a massive part of distraction that I have in my life, being my phone is like a main cause of that, and procrastination and just avoidance, which, we humans be having to kind of navigate that with what we live with in social media and, whatnot. But for me, it was actually really beautiful because I took this as a massive reminder to go within, to actually take space for myself, even though that was actually meant to be time that I was holding space for other people. But when I allowed myself to go within, I gave myself the freedom and permission to feel what I needed to feel. And I released things that I needed to, and it felt freeing. And I feel like as much as I had planned to hold space for the people that I was meant to in that space, which was, about 4 people, I knew that this was like a lesson. Like, you need to hold space for yourself in these moments too. You need to love on yourself, especially in moments where you feel the deep heaviness and when these things just are coming up and you're not expecting it either. Like, I really wasn't expecting this. Like, I knew it was kind of coming up for me as I was like getting ready and whatnot before the event, but it wasn't something that like I thought would actually bubble up to that point. But with what happened, it just like I said, it was like I knew there was something bubbling, but I didn't know that the trigger point would be that intense and like blow it open and, you know, not allow me to hold back and avoid anything. Um anyway, it definitely was an experience, and I took a lot away from it because I now realize that the more I actually lean into these things that go wrong, the more that I'm going to help myself actually align with what is right. And the truth being that when I say going wrong, it's not really going wrong. It's just a different route, a different way to where I'm going. And this is something I'm having to really like reflect on and be truly honest with myself about, that I may not fully understand what steps I need to take all the time and how I'm going to take them or where it's going to take me, but I have full confidence in spirit and my soul in guiding me to where like I need to be, right? Like to the places I need to be at, exactly when I need to be there, with the people I need to be with, or by myself, however it be. And knowing that I'll feel it. I'll feel it. And this is because I give myself permission to feel all things. You know, not just the good, not just the indicators of where things are good, but also things that tell me when it's not good. So I can trust in these emotions, so I can get used to them, so I can learn the language of emotions and use it as a way to understand things, especially energy. You know, I've always found that this is why emotions are so critical. 1717 on my recording time, because emotions really help bring the root of what is coming up, right? Like the story is not necessarily needed to move on from what is happening. It's about going within the body and feeling where that emotion is sitting, right? And leaning into it and giving it space to be held so that it can be moved through. And so that is what I have been giving myself the permission, the openness, the gentleness to do. And not to say I get it right every time, but I don't get it wrong either. I just know that I am still learning. I am still being a student. I am still figuring it out because it is safe to. I'm giving myself that safety, and I'm really magnetizing people who are safe. Like, I don't know if you noticed my lights flickered, but they flickered as I said that, because it's true. It's so true. Like, I am magnetizing people who can hold space for me and what I go through without me needing to explain it, you know, in a way that will just kind of take away from what's happening. But, you know, and that's the thing. It's not to say that it's anything wrong if someone doesn't get it. It's just, I know there are people who understand what I mean when I say my experiences a little bit more than others. And it really helps me feel safe in what I feel, because I know I'm not the only one. I know there are people out there who really experience the rawness of feeling like if that's how I can say it, the vulnerability of being with your emotions, right? And accepting them as they are without having to, you know, like dismiss them or push them away. It's kind of like saying, like, reminding yourself that if you were looking at your inner child as a kid that you just met, innocent, you know, learning and still understanding the world, still grasping the understanding of how to interpret what's happening, you wouldn't bash that child down with negativity. You'd want to lift that child up, right? And so that has been like a massive part of my healing journey, of acknowledging that the negative self-talk is just the pain that has been projected through my experiences, through other people, through my own negative self-talk that I have not been able to control in past experiences, but now I can see through, and I can kind of spot it out and tell myself that I know that's a lie, and this is what I mean about, there are people who can comprehend what I'm saying, because it's only when you have the awareness that you can actually reroute, and pivot these stories that we tell ourselves. And that is kind of what I'm starting to do with my inner child, is let's retell the stories that we were once telling ourselves, because we have that power to do so. So that has been quite the journey for me this week. I'm not gonna lie. It has pushed me to some limits that I didn't think I really could overcome in such a beautiful way. And it just was proof of what work I've been doing, and honoring that too, which has been beautiful. Using this to honor that too by expressing it, and learning that I can do that now, which is great. And yeah, if you got to the end of this, I appreciate you so very much. I genuinely love just sharing myself, and I'm getting so much better at sharing my authentic truth and who I am, and not holding back anymore, and just being true to that, however it comes up as. So yeah, this has been such it's been such an experience, having these triggers push me to explore my wounds deeper and allow them to be healed through my trust, of knowing I'm not alone in it too. So I share this to also remind anyone watching this that you are not alone in the things you experience. It's challenging because you may feel physically alone, but you're really not alone. You have so many beings and spirits, and I mean positive ones, that I would say would be the ones that are helping you, that are watching over you, and that are wanting you to succeed in what you do, and who you are through your truth. And so I've always had to remind myself that. And so I offer that reminder to you today, but it's also because this world wants us to feel alone. This world wants us to feel segregated and to feel isolated from the people that we truly are aligned with. And so I'm using this as my way to attract and magnetize the people who are just the ones who vibe with what I share. So I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep coming back here and showing up and being me, and sharing my journey, and talking about what I've learned and how I've managed to move through it, and the awareness I've gained, because I know that it can help someone. It's helped me. It's helped some people that I share it with in my real life. And so I'm using this platform to be that as well. So thank you for listening. My name is Daneesha. You have been listening to the Student of Earth podcast, all about knowledge, learning, and awareness. Have an amazing rest of your day, night, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now. Mwah.